Let's meet someone who empowers women to connect with their intuition and embraces holistic well-being. I'm Kate Save. The Inspired CEO starts now. Welcome to The Inspired CEO, where each episode we explore the innovative wellness practices that are driving success and longevity in the modern business world. Rochelle Gance is an intuitive guide, energy reader, and movement teacher in Melbourne, Australia. With over a decade of experience, she empowers women to connect with their intuition and true selves. As the founder of Strength Within, she provides holistic health and movement programs tailored to each individual, focusing on alignment of body, mind, heart, and soul. Previously, Rochelle spent 15 years in the corporate sector, and her expertise spans in life coaching, leadership development, and wellness coaching. Thank you for coming in today, Rochelle.
Thank you for having me.
So you've had a really interesting career, 15 years in the corporate world, and then you've changed direction. So you've gone into intuitive guidance. So tell me a little bit about your career initially, and then what made you make this transition?
Well, I started off, my family was into business and my dad was an entrepreneur, and so I just thought I would just go on this particular path, which was in business, and I'd go and work in an organisation, I'd be a CEO, and that was kind of, I didn't really think about it. He didn't, my family didn't really tell me what I had to do, but I kind of didn't really put any thought into it myself. And then I worked at amazing companies. I worked at GE and Ernst & Young and IBM and United Energy and National Australia Bank. And I kind of thought that, that was what I was supposed to do. And then I had children, and I felt like it wasn't feeling like I was so motivated anymore.
Yeah.
But I didn't really kind of think, I'll go and do something different. A couple of times when I was in my corporate career, I felt, maybe I'd like to go and do something different, because I was very into health and wellness. Yeah. And I kind of wanted, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then it was kind of forced on me, various different reasons with the GFC and being made redundant, that I ended up leaving the corporate world, which was like the worst thing in the world.
Really?
Like I just thought, the day that I left, I felt like it was my last day there, and I felt like the blood was just like coming down through my body. And I came home and I had to go to sleep, because it was like everything was sort of over. Like I kind of thought that I'd find something else, because I'd worked in the organisation for quite a long time. Yeah. So I had a lot of different people that I met with, but it was really hard for me to get a part-time job, and had young kids, so I wanted to work part-time. But obviously it ended up being a blessing, and that was really my soul's purpose, to leave the corporate world. I felt like it was like this sort of like good girl kind of path, that was what I was supposed to do. But I feel like it was kind of destroying me in a way, because I developed adult acne, and it felt like it was the stress of living this life that didn't really feel aligned to me. Yeah. And it was kind of like a wake-up call, like, something's got to change here. And so my husband actually suggested that I do a personal training course, and I was very into fitness and health and well-being. So I loved it. I really enjoyed it, because the part that I loved about work, which was the rapport, working with people, I got to do that as part of my job. But I felt like that wasn't the end. And then I kind of, I wanted to support my clients, because they all wanted to lose weight, and I really wanted to help them. And I knew it wasn't as simple as what everybody kind of makes out that it is. Yes. I did a course in eating psychology coaching. Right. And I discovered that I had my own eating issues that I didn't know I had. And that kind of shifted my around that,
your
so
perspective
it made it, a huge difference in my life. And then I found a different kind of way of working in terms of intuition, and I think that was where I was supposed to end up, because it's an area that I feel so passionate about, because I feel like I lived my life for so long not really aligned to what I was supposed to do. Not that I would change anything, because I think I've learned so much along the way, and I think that's what life's about. It's about the journey, and it's about the growing and the evolving. However, supporting people to be able to tune into what they feel is right for them and living a life that feels aligned for them is amazing. You feel so much more alive and powerful. And I think that so many times people think that there's like an answer somewhere else. There's a lot of different, health and well-being theories or practices, and it's really about like what feels right for you. Like, if you can feel like you're in charge of yourself, rather than having to listen to other people about what to do and what to eat and how to think and what to wear and all of those things. Like, it's just about asking ourselves, and it's something that we all have, but we don't really necessarily think about it, and we're not taught about it, I don't think, at school.
That's really fascinating, because it's really looking internally. So it's internal work as opposed to the external work. So a lot of people listen to podcasts and read books and go to courses, but they're learning about, like you mentioned, what to eat, what to do, how to think, where to go next, write the plan, but they're not actually tuning into how they're feeling, and how we're feeling actually dictates our behaviours and what we do. So how do you work with people to get them from that thinking, feeling to actually acting and doing?
Well, it's not a simple, because it depends. Everybody that I work with, it's different, but it's more about having a conversation. It's about holding space for someone. It's about being curious about them and who they are. Like, just talking to someone, you find out sometimes people don't realise, who they are.
Yeah.
But when someone else is listening and can say that back to them, it's quite powerful. And also, I think that when you have someone else that is really giving you that compassion and is, holding you and, showing you when you're giving yourself a lot of blame and judgment, and really like being that loving, compassionate presence, people will naturally move towards this path of listening to themselves and also finding that love for themselves that they might not have known or seen before, because of all of the voices with the judgment and the blame and the shame and guilt and all of the things.
Has that closed mind, they know they're not living true to themselves, there's something else there, but they just haven't looked behind that door, that they think that the answer's going to be, and keep doing what they're doing and eventually they'll be on that right path. But they've seen that they're not there and they're not getting there. How do you help them make that shift, that first meeting, or perhaps that one-liner, that opening aha moment? I'm sure you've experienced many of those moments. Is there anything you can recall?
I think someone has to be open to wanting to have a look at themselves. That's, I think, an important part. I find that working with people in movement therapy that I do, I find that can be a good way for people to kind of just get an understanding of who I am and how I work and the space that I'm able to hold for them. And so that can kind of, have people shift a little bit. But I think, as I said, it's really just having a conversation and asking questions, because a lot of times people don't really know things because they haven't thought about even asking themselves. So it's about having someone else, as I said, a loving presence to ask the questions. And, often I ask a question and people say, I don't know. So it's, getting people to start reflecting more. I think that, the more we reflect and the more awareness we have, the happier our lives are, because we're living in a completely different, turning up in a completely different way.
Yeah, so our energy, our what we're putting out there is a lot more positive or true to ourselves. And reflecting back on that now with having children, so how many children do you have?
So I've got 2 children. I've got a 19-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son.
And how do you think this practice has shaped perhaps the way that you've changed the way that you've raised your children, from being the corporate mum that was working a lot on a particular path to having a more mindful lifestyle? What does that mean for raising kids, or what have you learned?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's huge.
Yeah,
it's a huge part of the journey.
I'm sure I can learn something here.
I think that when I was working in the corporate world and I was just like, okay, I'm just doing this, but not really thinking about what I was doing. And also I think having children changes you, because in my experience, my kids were very strong and they knew what they wanted.
Wow.
And I was quite shy, and I remember thinking, I had like a moment where my daughter did something and I'm thinking, I would never do that. But then I realised that this is not about me parenting her as if she's me. This is about me just taking her and looking at what I've got in front of me and what feels right in terms of how I parent them. So I think that the way that I've parented them has kind of grown and evolved in, as well as myself, because for me it's like all one and the same, like my work and how I turn up with my family and friends and how I parent my kids. It's like there's no separation between that. It's about, how I hold space, and I hold space in the same way. And so I've always just parented them from a place where I wanted to give them as much freedom and flexibility as I felt I needed to do. So I didn't like clip them.
Yes.
And I find that, they're so independent. And, even my son said to me that, because I said to him one day, because he had a few issues as you do at school, and I said, how are you so resilient? He said, well, you always gave me the freedom and flexibility to be who I am, and that's what helped me to feel more resilient. And I'm really proud of him. He's now gone to school in the US to finish his school.
That's incredible.
And he's 16, and
so independent.
He just has that drive and that dedication, like amazing. And I'm proud of him. And I'm proud of the fact that I was able to support my kids in that way, to help them be the best that they can be.
And that inner confidence for him to actually move to another country by himself is unbelievable. So that's, well done to you guys for raising him. And also, I think, for him to go down that path of sport at that level, so the impact that you've had on your family's life in terms of health is huge. So what is your philosophy on health, or what do you do to stay fit and healthy?
Well, I personally don't do any very strong gym work anymore. I think as I've gotten older, I find that what helps me is the practices that I do myself and I teach, which is flow. Well, I call it flow, and it's a bit like a combination of Tai Chi and Qigong. Yes. So that is an energy practice, and it's kind of slow, rhythmic movements, which I feel helps me with my energy, and also with my, blood circulation and tension in my body. And I feel like that's enough for me to do in terms of I get my cardio, and I feel like it's strength work as well, but obviously body work, strength. And that's what I find, is I don't feel like I need to do anything else. I felt like when I used to do the rower, and I felt like it was really stressed me out. Yes. And I don't want to feel like I can get, we've got so many, everyone's got stress in their lives, but I don't want to get stress from doing exercise. Yeah. I want to move in a way that feels therapeutic for me. Yeah. So I do that, and I also have started teaching a practice called shaking medicine. Yes. Which is a therapeutic tremoring. And it's about helping the body to rebalance the nervous system and kind of get the kinks out. And it's kind of an old, very ancient sort of practice that, we would have done, many, many, years ago, and it's kind of got lost. But it's like remembering something that is innate in us, a bit like animals. Animals kind of shake to get rid of their stress and to get back to homeostasis. So it's similar. So I do those two things, plus I eat very healthy. I just love eating healthy, I just love it. And I do it, I did have eating issues around eating healthy with orthorexia, but now I feel like I eat the same, but I don't have that stress. I just enjoy it. Like I just like eating healthy, and I think for me all of those things help me to be healthy. But it's not like, I think that, I used to think it's all about eating and about exercise.
Yes.
But it's so much about your mental health. I have I have support for myself as well. I get support, and I think that is part of the whole health and wellness routine. And for me, it's not even like about how do I, balance, because it's a priority for me. It's like brushing my teeth, getting up in the morning and, doing all the things that you normally do. Like for me, it's just part of who I am. Yeah. So it's, like I make the emotional and the time and the financial investment in those things because you
show up as a better person. And
then I can support other people in the way that I want to support them, rather than being so like stressed and tense and, and then I'm not going to be able to show up for anyone in the way that I want to. But that's a very big change from the way I was in corporate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's so much to be learned from the ancient wisdom and the practices that you've taken now. So thank you so much for sharing today. This is the Inspired CEO, and we'll be right back.